Okay, so there's this very interesting video about Ashes of Creation that gained a lot of traction recently, and I wanted to check it out for myself. Now at this point, you guys already know what I think about Ashes. The game is just a huge, buggy, laggy, glitchy, shady mess that would never live up to the hype. On top of that, the developers actually had the gall to charge us, the player base, ludicrous amounts of money to essentially be their alpha testers. It's crazy to me that some people are actually willing to pay the tide to join in the shenaniganry, but that's why I'm here for. Just to poke a little bit of fun at Ashes and all of the bad practices, but also to call out bad actors. And I believe that one day, when the entire Ashes of Creation facade will crumble, I will be there laughing and pointing at you. Because you dislike my videos. Now, that being said, until the day comes, you're free to do so. I completely accept all opposing opinions. But with that being said, let's start the video, and I want to add more of my opinions as we progress through it. Now, that being said, also, I have a huge storm roaring around my window, like roaring outside my window. I don't know, maybe God don't want me to react to this one, but you know what? It's okay. I'm gonna still do it.
Early 2021, I watched a survival game launch into early access and become a hit virtually overnight. Valheim was the talk of the internet. Polished, aesthetically unique, mechanically sound, and promising beyond belief.
Absolutely. I played this game with my friends, I think around 6 months when like the hype really started, and it was good. It was clearly lacking some features and the gameplay was short, but it was fun. I enjoyed it. My friends, I think, were less so, but you know, I really had my fill. Like, this game was extremely fun when I played it.
I saw all of this and thought, wow, let these developers cook. Why invest now when I can wait a little bit longer and experience the full fruits of their labor?
It completely blew up. The game is crazy.
On a half-finished product when I can be patient and experience the full intended thing. That was almost 5 years ago, and Valheim, well, I don't even...
Man, time really flies you by, huh? Nowadays, my friends can't play anything with me, man. I'm alone. That's crazy.
Even know. It's gotten a handful of updates since, and while it is undeniably a wonderful game, I can't help but feel like its early release didn't do anything but make worthy, talented developers rich and slow down an already slow production to a crawl.
Yeah, I can see what he's saying. Yeah, he has a point. He has a really good point. Like, that's actually a really good point. I like that. And I think that to some degree, it's the developer's fault, but it's not a player fault, but it's kind of nature of the beast thing, right? Because whenever you get such a huge influx of money in such a short time span, you're bound to make mistakes. Because the developers clearly got scared, because they now have so many people expecting them to deliver a product that can never be delivered. They're expecting some game that will blow their socks off, and the developers initially had a different plan in mind. Now, with higher budget, of course, they can achieve different things, right? But at the same time, they're still not... Maybe they're not the best developers out there. I don't want to like call anyone out because the game is still phenomenal. But I can totally see why they got scared and were afraid that they couldn't deliver a product that everyone would have liked. I can see that, for sure.
On one hand, I'm thrilled that small indie devs got the...
That being said, it does not absolve them from delivering a good product, because they did get all of this early access money.
Bag, that's awesome. On the other hand, I just want to play, and I can't help but feel that by doing so early, I'm robbing myself of a more holistic, exciting experience later. Now, take this experience with what is a great game and apply it to a genre that has stagnated for the past decade and is simultaneously the most difficult to create and the most expensive to develop. And you are...
He's right, but the MMO genre has stagnated simply because developers were greedy. It wasn't stagnating because the player base didn't want it. The player base is clearly so goddamn starved for a good MMO, they're willing to pay $50 to be an alpha tester for Ashes. It's that bad.
Are left with the sad reality of MMOs in today's market. Early access is tough. It's also mandatory.
8-bit PoE?
Your project might have suffered setbacks and now you don't have the...
Damn, not gonna lie, the 8-bit filter actually makes the game looks fire. I don't know why, I like that.
Funding to continue production. Maybe an investor pulled out and you can't pay your employees after the quarter wraps. In other
Arcade
cases,
filter?
you have a promising game on your hands and need to prove to an investor that you're worth investing in
By the way, if you do enough map difficulty in PoE 2, the game would actually look like that. It will have a natural pixelated filter. Trust me. Also, you'll start smelling your PC.
showing traction and hype established by an early
Just turn off the smoke alarms. You'll be fine.
access release. Whatever the reason, it's an indelible reality of living in today's gaming world. Everyone's a game designer and everyone has a project to get
Damn, indelible? That's a word that exists? Jesus, man, I need to improve my English. God damn, I need to actually Google this one out. I have no idea what it means.
off the ground, and by giving yourself the opportunity to release early playtest while
It's a point for me for later. I'll check it out.
Establishing an existing player base to sell
Beaver.
for future investments, you develop a tenable future for your passion. That's in a perfect world, though. Early access games are fraught with cut and runs, asset flips that market well and ditch better, projects that promise the world.
Oh man, dude, you remember this game? Everyone clowned at it. I even forgot the name. It was so obvious this game was a scam. It's so funny. It was so funny to see how people actually just got lured into it just to completely get their money poofed away. It was incredible. I forgot how it's called. But yeah, he's absolutely right. There are so many rotten apples that just screw up the entire batch. And that just, it's just reality. It kind of sucks, right? And that's why I think that we should have more of a safety policy against these type of shady early access, but it needs to be governed. This is something that the government needs to take care of, where people just scam you and run away with your money. And I don't think it's anything that Steam can do. I know many people want Steam to hold the money. I don't think they legally can. I'm not that sure about that, though. But yeah, it is what it is. Right now, I think the government should do something about that. It's so bad. It's truly so bad.
Delivered just short of function. And what market is better to market toward than desperate, hungry, passionate MMO fans who at once tribalize around their favorite game while simultaneously frothing at the mouth at a captivating vertical slice? MMOs were always an unsafe investment, expensive to produce and extraordinarily difficult to design. You're expected to create a long-term RPG with a living world and a player base before even a single real person plays it. That's why so many MMOs today have established short-form seasonal models that make development easier. No need to worry about a broader picture.
Blizzard has all the funds, and Blizzard can do whatever the hell they want. The reason they do this is because, I don't want to say Activision brain, it's just corporate brain right now, because they're being owned by Microsoft, and even the ownership change didn't change a damn thing. I remember when people were told Microsoft is, unshackling Blizzard from the hand of Activision, and everyone went like, yeah, goodbye, Bobby, screw you, and nothing's changed. Nothing. Because it was never an Activision problem, it was just a corporate issue. That's it. The problem is the developers that made World of Warcraft so great are now gone. And they're long gone. They're making different products. And yeah, it sucks, but it's reality. That's why the game is always going to suck, and that's why I quit.
Sure, when your MMO has become digestible in 6-month patch cycles. All of that is to say, not everyone enjoys the current state of affairs in this genre.
Nobody is. That's why nobody's playing. That's why so many people are starved for a good MMO, because nobody's playing WoW. WoW is literally being kept on life support by China. That's it. Nobody plays WoW. And the botters, right? That's it.
Some swear by it, others reminisce fondly of the rose-tinted past, when worlds felt vast and the information proliferating the internet wasn't as ubiquitous and easy to access. Yes, MMOs like old-school RuneScape do capture the hearts of millions thanks to their long-form grinds and impactful progression. They are also not representative of the—
God damn, you have sailing in RuneScape? Man, I really need to check this game out. So many people have told me about it. I just don't have the time. I'm so swamped. But the game looks fire.
Golden standard for evolution. They are firmly rooted
I'll start making videos
past,
about that.
Aesthetically and mechanically.
Very
As
least
much
reaction,
as I love
at the very
OSRS,
least.
and I do, it's my favorite MMO, there is a not insubstantial number of people who dismiss it at a first glance. After the genre peaked around 2009 and began to slowly decline, we all saw dozens of older game developers
talking about the
chip
Lich
into
King,
their
by the way.
minds and pitch evocative, innovative ideas. Tell me if this sounds familiar. Senior EverQuest designers, brand new Kickstarter MMO. Camelot
Ooh.
developer has just launched a
I
brand
said
new
it.
Kickstarter MMO.
Goddamn.
Ex-Blizzard developers' wacky idea for an
Oh
MMO.
God.
Find it on Kickstarter today.
Oh God, it's so funny to hear that whenever someone has credentials, people automatically are just inclined to believe they're gonna give them the best product ever. And all we've seen until now is that it couldn't be further away from what's actually happening in reality. That's just hilarious. Like, Project Ghost was so garbage, they got dropped by their publisher, and now they're just hanging in the air. They're waiting for someone to actually pick them up, otherwise the game just die. It's crazy. I can't believe they even thought this was somewhat eligible to gain any sort of traction whatsoever. This is crazy. I don't know what happened to people, honestly.
Tell me if this sounds even
I
more
remember
familiar.
when Josh Strife
It
Hayes
is
talked
with
about
a heavy
it.
heart that we announce the closure of our studio and an immediate ceasing of all production on some kind of promised future MMO that hadn't yet even seen
Yes.
playtesting, let alone a release.
An MMO that was supposed to break all the rules and be the best thing you ever saw in your goddamn life. Damn. We have to shut down, though. Crazy. Thanks for the money, loser.
The trend, huge
Suck
promises
it.
and even bigger productions asking for minuscule budgets and time that doesn't exist. From scams to decades-long development cycles,
Dude, this
that
was
lead
such
to
a huge scam.
unpopular releases of clearly unfinished
It was something
products.
Illyria, right? Oh, wait,
It
it's
was
actually
a
written.
disaster, and eventually the hungry player base eager for something new caught on. All of these promises don't mean anything when the return on investment is as unlikely as winning the lottery, and only in shrinking scope do these games
There he
ever
is.
truly release. Or they justify never releasing by expanding their scope to laughable proportions.
Come on, man. Any Star Citizen ship owners here? Show yourself. I know you are there. Please.
That's the benefit of promising an entire universe in your
True.
upcoming MMO.
It will happen.
The universe
Soon, boys.
perpetually grows. It never ends, much like your dev cycle. All of this
Amazing.
continues to hold true. Fund whatever game you want.
Man, I need to start covering more Star Citizen shenaniganry. It's fun. Like, it's good, right? Guys, would you like to see these type of videos? Man, it's gonna be hilarious, I'm telling you. There's some crazy shit going on there that you guys don't know about.
But the second it has the
Trust me.
MMO label attached to it, you better realize that it'll either never come out, or when it does, it will be unrecognizable from the game originally pitched. That's where we enter a potential outlier, Ashes of Creation. A beacon of hope
Ooh.
for the MMO fans that have existed on the fringes of a fractured demographic. You have the most popular MMOs all collecting.
I just want to throw something out there before he talks about Ashes. I think that a lot of people kind of looked at No Man's Sky recently, and that's why they think there's still hope. I do believe that No Man's Sky kind of changed people's perspective, because if you don't know what happened with the game, just to summarize, the game promised the entire world to the player base, and when it was released, it was so bad nobody was willing to play it. But the developers kept on working on it and release free updates that actually eventually made the game what it was supposed to be on launch, and even more. And now the players are actually subscribing to it. Like, it's so good, right? It's so good. And when I say subscribe, I mean like playing it and devoting themselves to it. I don't mean like literally subscribing. But yeah, right now the game is basically good, and it even won the best game awards for the like best running game, right? Currently, which is crazy to think how the game even started. Now, most of the people look at that and think to themselves, okay, maybe Ashes isn't completely lost. Maybe they can pivot, they can do something. It's never gone until it's really gone, right? So that's what probably gives a lot of players right now hope. And I think that it's false. And the reason I think that it's false is because when Halo Games, I think they're called Halo Games if I'm not mistaken, the developers of No Man's Sky, they actually started immediately improving the game. Unlike Ashes, where you can see that Steven doesn't give a crap about you. Okay? He doesn't care. He only answers to light or positive criticism, right? Or he never answers to videos such as mine or, you know, other big content creator. I'm a nobody on this platform. I'm not expecting like Steven to watch this video. I'm a nobody. But there's so many people who say what I say, and Steven never responds to them. Recently, Asmongold himself played a game and said that it was garbage. Well, pretty much he didn't call it garbage, and you never see any reaction to it. It's so crazy. Like, it's just baffling to me that he constantly ignores these type of criticisms, but he always praises the light ones. It's crazy, man. Like, it's insane.
their respective player bases, occasionally cross-pollinating,
Guild
and then you
Wars!
have those who have yet to gravitate in any which way. That's what I call the ashes of the genre, remnants of what once was an ever-burning flame of passion and excitement. Ashes of Creation,
Damn, that was
developed
kind
by
of a long
Steven
title.
Sharif under the studio Intrepid, started like any crowdfunded MMO. Far too long ago with far too many promises. It asked for the
Yeah.
pittance of $750,000 on Kickstarter, which for those who don't know is about 1/100th of what an MMO of this scale would need for a full
Damn.
dev cycle. The
Damn.
ever-present reasoning given was that Ashes was already funded. Sharif is loaded thanks to his past business ventures, allowing
Yeah.
him to essentially secure early costs and
And the guy in the video is probably not going to talk about it, so I'm just going to quickly mention it because I know someone in the comments will. Yeah, Steven passed, and the way that he gained his initial wealth is very controversial. If you don't know anything about it, go watch a video about this. I'm not going to get into it. Basically, people are saying he sold some snake oil and all that stuff with some, juice company, whatever. I don't want to get into it, but I think it does contribute to the fact that people are starting to hate on this game. Because usually one thing leads to another, and people are starting to connect the dots. And when they do, they start seeing a pattern, right? Where they think that if you scammed these type of people, you're gonna scam us. That's what they're saying. And I understand where it's coming from, and I think that to a certain degree, that is true.
invest in the future.
But I'm not gonna blame Steven for like his past doings, okay? I'm just judging the product that's in front of me right now. And the product is bad. That's the difference.
Of all the dog shit Kickstarter projects that would never see the light of day, this one felt just a bit more possible thanks to this promise of existing funding. They didn't need to go muck diving for angel investors after taking your money. But what came after was, sadly, about as tumultuous a production as one would expect. Intrepid is a new studio tasked with creating innovation in a genre that hasn't seen it for years and years. It amounted to persistently under-delivering over and over and over again.
Absolutely.
Then culminating in launching a titled combat test in the form of a battle royale. This eventually shuttered and
which they charged money for, by the way. They have charged money for certain aspects of it.
maybe the actual development process began. I can only assume that what came before was concept testing and previs. Regardless, this all happened half a decade ago. Today, Ashes has been readily developed, with consistent live streams showcasing its progress, monetization in the form of ludicrously expensive supporter packs, pre-alphas that gave those invested supporters access, and eventually early access for all. While the game is...
Man, at how many points they took money from the players? That's crazy. They had so many cycles where they offered packs for insane amounts of money for absolutely nothing. This is insane, man. What are they doing here?
Being developed, and I don't think it's a scam by any means. I won't lie and say I wasn't blindsided by its early access release.
It's not a scam. I always said that this game is going to be released. It's going to see the light of day. It's just going to be a subpar product. That's all. It's going to be extremely bad.
The last thing Ashes of Creation, a project that looked like it had just begun, needed was the opportunity to showcase just how incomplete it is. That's what I felt anyway, and unfortunately, after investing some time into it, yeah, it's not in a great spot, and it furthers my creeping suspicion that the development of this game is suffering more than I had otherwise thought. Similarly, I think that early access MMOs are a death knell to the genre. They are the opposite of what should be done, and that's partly what makes them so difficult to develop. So let's talk about that. What do you think an early access game needs to succeed in its early access? The answer:
it should show some sort of a promise. And by that I mean it should have fundamental good base that you can have the players run around and play with and actually test your game. And a good example for that would be Baldur's Gate 3. This is an example I get all the time because Larian Studios actually gave people early access for really huge amount of money, right? It was costly. But at the same time, Larian eventually delivered the best product known to man. Baldur's Gate 3 was the best game I've ever played, and I only played through the first act. I haven't got the time to play through the rest. It's crazy. So I still need to complete that. But with all of that in mind, the first act was really good. It was good. I watched gameplay videos about it. It was great. It had voice acting, it had all of the basic stuff inside of it. So it was good. Yes, it was constantly being updated for free as well, but it had something to offer. Ashes got nothing. For all of the time they've been in development, we got nothing. And again, I'll remind you, the game is using Unreal Engine 5, and granted, they have moved from Unreal Engine 4 to Unreal Engine 5, and I guess that took some sort of a, time from them, right? It was a hindrance for sure. But at the same time, you're working with an engine that does not belong to you. You have all the assets already cooked inside of the game. Now, I'm not telling you to use pre-existing assets. That would be cringe. But you have all the tools. So what are we working on? What takes forever? Just fill the world with life. Why all the node system are still so basic? Why all of the basic features are missing? Why all you have is PvP? It's just weird. And like guild battles, okay, and all that stuff. Even the giant guild battles aren't ready yet. They're supposed to be in the next patch. But it's crazy, right? Like sieges and stuff. It's insane.
Is of course multifaceted. It can be one of many things, but by and large, the answer I always end up falling back to is a hook. Something immediately gripping. It can
exactly.
Be an art style,
Exactly.
A gameplay mechanic.
Exactly what I said. Exactly. I haven't pre-watched this, by the way. I swear to God. This is a genuine first impression. It just makes total sense. You need to show promise with that first hook. You need to make sure the players aren't getting their full bang for their buck yet, but they are seeing what's supposed to come.
System
For sure.
that you can't help but be excited for. Something there that within the first 5 minutes, you just get. I know that sounds vague, so let's go back to Valheim for a second. I would argue that its unique aesthetic is such an important selling point. I'm sure it's a turnoff for some, but this kind of low-poly, almost PS1 era vibe is very much part of its core demographics.
Nah, it was really good, and also the way the game moved was crazy. I remember when I chopped down a tree and I saw it rolling down a hill and actually crashing into stuff and breaking apart. It was crazy. Like, that was so good. I remember being just fascinated by that. It was truly revolutionary. I don't know, for my brain at least. I haven't encountered anything like that. It was really incredible.
Most nostalgic gaming memories. Now attach that to an exceptional survival game and you have a recipe for success, a great marketing tool leading into a great investment opportunity. It feels like nostalgia and modern day design had a beautiful baby, and that's partly why old school RuneScape continues to be successful today too. I think every single successful early access game has followed this trend, whether it be something like Hades, which used its place as an early access game for marketing, or one of my favorites,
it was an early access
No
game?
Rest for the Wicked. Hades has an eye-catching aesthetic, gorgeous character art.
Man, I'm dying to play No Rest for the Wicked. I'm just waiting, guys. Like, I'm gonna 100% play this game. 100%. I'm just waiting for the full release. I don't want to ruin the surprise.
And snappy gameplay that doesn't take more than 5 minutes to get excited by. Meanwhile, the slower-paced No Rest for the Wicked evokes so much in its painterly aesthetic
it looks so
that
good.
You just feel enraptured by it, lost in its world within the first few moments. It also helps that both of these games are relatively short form. Hades is a roguelike, meaning it hinges on replayability in early access or not. And No Rest for the Wicked is an ARPG, like a more Souls-like version of Diablo. Each game is there to give you reason to return to it, and their single-player nature nullifies outside influence and pressure.
Man, this game looks insane.
And you're in. Now let's
look at
MMOs, the slowest, longest, most tedious genre on the market. It's not uncommon to hear, "It gets good after 500 hours, bro," from a passionate fan, and they may very well be right. But service early access, that does not.
Is it true for MMOs? Do you need to invest copious amount of hours into it to have fun? I don't think so. I don't know about you, but when I tried vanilla World of Warcraft for the first time when it came out, obviously not back in the day when I was a kid because my parents wouldn't purchase me like anything related to video games, which by the way, I think would have been the right decision, but That being said, I only played when it was first re-released by Blizzard, and I was hooked from the very first minute. I knew this was the best MMORPG experience ever. The slow pace, the fact that they just throw you into the world. I remember I opened the Night Elf, okay? It was so good. I was in Darnassus, and I just saw all the giant trees and everything, and the entire Night Elf aesthetic, which generally I really like, and all of these hot women on Panthers. Man, that was dope. Like, that was crazy. Man, it was truly a good time. It was just great. And I immersed myself in the world immediately, and even if I didn't just completely enjoy the combat, because classic combat is, it's kind of iffy, right? It's out there. You can expect that after 2 decades. The combat is a little bit outdated, to say the least, but I still enjoy the world a lot. And that what created the best MMORPG experience for me. And I enjoy that thoroughly. I still play classic WoW, and I think it's the best thing in the world. Well, right now I actually just quit it. I quit classic World of Warcraft because I kind of had enough. It's the same thing over and over again. But you get my point. It's the best MMORPG out there. I will always say that.
You are letting an incomplete game do all the talking, and first impressions are everything. A roguelike like Hades just needs to sell you on one good run, one demonstration of its gameplay loop to trust that in a year's time when it releases, it'll only get better.
Yeah.
Now I must ask, what the hell does Ashes of Creation sell? And
absolutely.
I don't mean $100 founders packs. As I mentioned earlier, early access can...
What? Voyager Plus pre-order pack? What? It's almost $400? What does it even offer? Jesus, man. These people are unhinged.
Can also be an action of necessity, a lack of funding, for example. But considering Ash's fanbase has been persistently reassured that it is...
Imagine, dude, look at this again. Look at this guy casting again. I want you to actually pay attention to this.
But considering Ash's fanbase has been...
Imagine working on a video game for over a decade, and your guy, when he's casting abilities, is going like... Oh! What is that? What is that, bro? Are you kidding me? That's all you got? And you have some sparks flying around. That's it? Like, literally, that's it? Crazy. I've seen... I don't want to do this entire rant again. Guys, please just check solo developers projects in Unreal Engine, okay? And just come back to this comment section and just tell me what you think, okay? I've literally seen solo developer projects that are way better than this. I've seen it with my own eyes.
It is fully funded through release. That can't be it, right? So why? What does early access do? Does it generate more hype? Well,
generate more revenue.
Does it service the game?
Nope.
I don't think so.
Also, I will give Ashes like a little bit of, I'm gonna play devil's advocate. The Steam numbers don't reflect what really happens, because I know a lot of people played from the Ashes launcher, so it doesn't really reflect what's going on.
So, subjectively speaking. So unless the player base is just...
I want to be fair, guys. I want to be fair.
I can't help but be confused by this release.
That's what I've been told, at least.
Furthered by its genre. An MMO fundamentally doesn't work in early access, at least in my opinion. Feel free to disagree. To explain...
Depends on what you offer. If you offer a good enough content, I think people would subscribe to it, for sure. And you know what? I can actually give a pretty good example. If you told me classic World of Warcraft gave us only half the zones, I think that it was enough to make sure that people are trusting in this game. I think so. If you gave people half of WoW experience, even without the raids, with nothing, and you would even limit them to like one side of the isle, like only Kalimdor, whatever, doesn't matter, or only the Eastern Kingdoms, really doesn't matter. I think most people would have played that and went like, there's pretty good gameplay loop out there. I think they would. I believe that. And if Ashes offered the same thing, I think most people would have been fine with it.
Explain why, I must first ask you this. What are the most foundational important pillars of an MMO?
Absolutely.
First and foremost, it's the systems design, the way it integrates its overworld onto players' moment-to-moment gameplay,
right.
And how it connects players together through that overworld. How it establishes long-term persistence and, crucially, a sense of collective exploration and discovery. It sounds dumb, and it often is because we're so used to linear Korean MMOs launching and dying within the span of 2 months, but to me, one of the most important
They only die because the people are poor, damn it. That's the only reason. Don't you want to pay 2 subscriptions? Dude, go to hell.
parts of an MMO is grounding the player with other players, not through group content, but experientially. The moment a new MMO launches is so exciting because it inhabits a feeling of collective exploration. We're all starting
100%.
from zero together. And
A
while I may
100%. He's 100% right. That is such a good point. Nobody's ever talking about this. This is so facts. This is such a great video. I can't believe he actually just said that. I said so many times on this channel that I love MMO launches. Even if I don't like the MMO, I love MMO launches. Seeing everyone packed together in such a small space, or not even a small space, just generally in a space together where you can see just everyone and you can't even see the ground, it's so fun for me. When I played Turtle WoW, I played on the newly launched Embershire server not too long ago, just a couple of months. It was so good, even though it was the most messiest thing ever, because everyone tried to tag mobs, so the developers basically just increased the spawn rate to 0 point something seconds, and you had like monsters spawning around constantly. It was so fun. It was so fun seeing everyone trying to grab a corner and just farm mobs for quests and interacting with each other and standing in lines for a boss. It was so fun, man. I miss that. It's crazy good. He's so right about that. That like the shared goal of exploration, everyone is starting together. And in Turtle World of Warcraft, they actually put messages in the old chat that tells you whenever certain player have gotten to a certain level. So it was really fun seeing like everyone popping off. It was so good.
never see you
I love
in the
that.
crowd, just the fact that you're there is so important to selling an MMO's long-term appeal. I think you can start to see how early access fundamentally destroys
Man, he
this,
shredded
right?
that guy
You've
on a
now
boat. What the
created,
hell?
maybe unintentionally, a market of early investors who can establish metas, develop strategies, and literally do half the content prior to release. Whether it resets everyone's progress or not, just the fact that so much has already not only been witnessed, but figured out before 1.0 launches is sad. In today's
Yeah.
climate, when long-term play is often
But to be fair, it's kind of because of today player base is just all about min-maxing and data mining and stuff. It's also the fault of the players, for sure. But it's on the developers to actually take care of that. Because they cultivate to these type of people, you're gonna get these type of people. They're only gonna grow.
seen as a chore when people constantly chirp about whether it's too late to start an MMO like a week after its release. Years of early access only
True.
makes this hundreds of times worse. You can
And I think that World of Warcraft kind of tried to take care of that problem. I don't know if they were really successful. You had raids like Zul'Gurub, which meant for you to essentially be like a catch-up zone, and that's pretty much it. So they have done a pretty great job in making sure that people don't feel lost even if they had a late start. But at the same time, maybe joining an MMO after everyone had already started will always feel bad to a certain degree. So I do agree with that. Now, can you make a system that actually makes it so it's not the case? You can constantly open up new servers and stuff, and maybe just join them after like the servers have reached a certain point. I don't know, maybe that would be a good idea, but other than that, I don't think there's any way to do it. Maybe I can think of it right now as I'm speaking, but surely one day someone will crack the code.
scoff at these players, but they are who you're selling your game to. Without them, you don't have a sustainable future. If to them it feels bad to begin a game a week late, it'll feel borderline impossible
week late
to
is
begin
crazy, though.
years after launch, thanks to early access being a kind of launch. I'm genuinely sad to say that has killed any excitement I had over this game's eventual release. Not because I want to compete for world first or anything, or because I really care if people know optimal leveling routes, but because so much emergent discovery and meta development has been spoiled already. Most of it has not only been discovered, but been planned around. It doesn't feel good to willfully be hundreds of hours behind before a game even officially releases. Knowledge
Damn.
is the factor here, not levels. Don't get me wrong though, I am very
Interesting.
much for people who play more getting rewarded more. Hell, that's very
Of course, of course. So do I. But at some point, you need to realize that there needs to be a threshold. There needs to be a limit to how many people can have power. Well, not how many people, just how much power can one person have. Because then, if you create a power dynamic that is too much in terms of disparity levels, you're gonna have the sweats just naturally rising to the top, and people like me who only have 3 to 4 hours a day to play would just sink to the bottom. And when we people just sink to the bottom, we don't play because we don't have fun. If we feel like we're being preyed upon, then we're not gonna subscribe to that. It's not gonna be good for us. It's not gonna be healthy for the game on the long term. And all you're gonna end up being is just a game filled with sweats. And you know what happens when the sweats have no one? No, I said no one because I wanted to say nobody and no one. I'm an idiot. But you know what happens to the sweats when nobody wants to play the game, which is, like me? They have nothing to prey upon. And they start preying on each other. And then they all end up leaving. Because they don't want to face someone at their own level. They want to twin characters. They want to just murder you when you're most vulnerable, and they want to ruin your day. That's all they do. And that's why I say that PvP based MMORPGs would never work unless you have certain type of framework like Eve has done. And that's the only cases where it will work. And Albion, I know, I'm just using Eve because it's the only one I know. But Eve has created a giant ass universe that you can play with, and it's literally impossible for one guild to take over everything, as far as I understand it. I don't know like everything about this game. I recently started to get like more into the mechanics of it, but it's crazy. There's a framework built in specifically for that. In Ashes, you don't have that. You can elect mayors, you can do all of that stuff. It's really bad. It's really bad.
much part of an MMO's appeal. What I don't like is for all of that existing before an actual release. I mean, even in single-player games, can you imagine how underwhelming Elden Ring would have felt if every secret was discovered a year prior to its launch? How unsatisfying it would be to take that leap.
But in Ash's case, the secrets are tied to the basic mechanics of the game, so they can't really hide it. They have to do what they have to do. It's a damn shame, but it's reality.
Lift down the Siofra River Basin and see the vista that you already saw 10 times on Twitter this year? Or even worse, imagine if Elden Ring released in increments of each major zone. The first year's Limgrave, the next...
Imagine if Melania didn't have Waterfall Dance. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not mad, guys. I swear to God, I'm not mad.
Here's Liurnia, and so on. Would this have improved the game, or would it make it feel far smaller and less exciting to dive into? Worse yet, imagine how frustrating random PvP and invasions would feel if you avoided all of these tests and spoilers only to get crip walked over by someone who has been perfecting their meta and gameplay since early pre-alpha. On the topic of Ashes of Creation, I have this constant fear that the full release will just seem like a fresh start server.
I bet Steven looks at that and he goes like, damn, I love being rich.
To capture a much wider audience and
crazy.
propelling those who are already invested far ahead. Maybe I'm the odd one out, but if you have extensive guides written about your open world RPG before its release, you've kind of lost me. But okay, what if you don't care about that?
But again, it really just depends on how much power you give these metas. That's all it depends. Because, yes, right now in World of Warcraft, everything is being data mined and the game is just, like, ruined because of that. But even when I played classic World of Warcraft and everything was known because the game came out 20 years ago, it was still fun. It was still fun. You knew everything. You knew what rag drops, you knew all about the legendaries and the quests you need to do for, let's say, like the priest weapon Anathema, which I had. Like, it was so good. And even though I knew what I had to do, it was fun. Like, it was great. So it's just a matter of how much power you give over the players. That's really it. Because when you make a PvP-based MMO, naturally, the best players who knows all the meta will just scam their way to the top and just bully you. That's the real problem. You give the players too much power.
then you're left with the other half of this issue, which is that MMOs are slow. It's rare that an MMO evokes much of anything after 5 minutes, let alone 5 hours.
That's
So
not
one
true.
must
I
ask,
give an example for
what
that.
is
It's not true.
Ashes of Creation?
Like, this is 100% not true. I'm always enamored, and I really wanted to use that word. I was saving it. I was really enamored when I played classic World of Warcraft for the first time. When I played vanilla. It was just good. You go to Darnassus, you see all the giant trees, and you just feel like a nobody in such a huge world. Traversing throughout it, the entire, like, Azeroth, was so great. It was such a great experience. I was hooked from the very first minute. It was really fun. Ashes, not much the case, brother.
Evoking. To answer this, let's figure out what it's even offering in the first couple hours. And bear with me here because I want to use specifically early game footage here, just because I don't want to spoil the late game stuff for people that haven't played. You log in and you're met with the visuals. This is where games like No Rest for the Wicked excel instantly. Eye-catching, beautiful, jaw-dropping. But in this case, it's
So I get so many comments about that because I love retro games and I never cared about graphics. And whenever I say Ashes looks bad, everyone looks at me like, hey, how can you say this game is good and that game is bad? Guys, I'll explain it to you. When a game is built in Unreal Engine 5, I'm expecting certain things, okay? When one developer makes an MMO and he makes it retro look so we can actually make it viable, I'm gonna give him grace. Okay? There's a difference between a fully developed and fully funded MMO that is using an engine that is known to be capable of doing some insane photorealistic crap and giving me this to one developer project, sorry. Okay? There's a difference. So I'm not gonna judge it on the same scale even. That's the problem. And also, there's an element of the game running smoothly, which Ashes clearly doesn't do. It runs really bad. It's not good. Look at all of the animations. And now you'll tell me, oh, but animations are the last thing they're doing. Well, then offer me something with the game. Okay? But regardless, the game doesn't look good. It needs to at least show some promise. I don't know, maybe the landscape. It's okay if the animations aren't complete. But for the love of God, why the mountains look like that? Why the bridge looks like that? Why the textures are so bad and dull and lifeless? It sucks.
Yeah. Visuals are subjective, and you might think this kind of Unreal Engine stock asset vibe is fine or even good, and you wouldn't be wrong. I promise. I'm not like hating you for that. But you'd be hard-pressed to argue that Ashes is standout among peers, right? Even if the visual...
Exactly. It could have offered so much more. It could have been so much bad. It's not bad. It doesn't look like garbage. It's okay, but it could have been so much better.
Are fine. There's certainly nowhere near, say, New World, rest in peace, or even World of Warcraft, which has identifiable art direction and enchanting painterly aesthetics.
That's true. Even though I will say World of Warcraft has kind of fallen off in terms of graphic during the years, I do look at current retail WoW and I think, yeah, that could have been better. That being said, it still looks good.
RuneScape has its rough charm, for example, first gen kind of stuff. Black Desert has some level of deeper realism.
Insane.
Ashes
Insane. I recently played this game. It's crazy, man. It looks so good. It's crazy to even think this game came out 10 years ago.
Excelling anywhere. And it's not an issue of polish, but rather of creativity in art style, art direction. So many of these assets look like they're from the Unreal Store, and that's not me accusing the developers of doing this, I'm not, but rather just...
I will. Make your own stuff.
Just relaying my immediate thoughts or impressions.
I was about to say something different. I stopped myself there. I don't want to be banned.
Like another one of those kind of Unreal Engine games. You know the ones I'm talking about. It doesn't run particularly well, but that's expected. So visuals are a bit of a bust, but maybe the next thing you...
Wait, why is that expected? The game has been in development for 10 years. Like, why running smoothly is... like, running badly is expected? It's so weird. There's such a weird take, man. I don't like it. I don't like this take. I think it should have ran way better. 100%. I mean, otherwise, what are you testing it for, really? Like, all of these arbitrary systems that don't exist yet? It's very weird. It's so off to me. I don't like this.
Won't be. Movement feels... Again,
I don't like this argument.
Fine. None of the fluidity of World of Warcraft or heft of New World or Guild Wars, but it's serviceable. And combat It's,
Don't say it.
well, it's this.
Jesus, man. It's again, please do yourself a favor. Pause this video and go watch one developer's products, like on Unreal Engine. Please go look one developer projects. I promise you, your mind will be blown away. This is crazy.
I'm not sure what to say here.
I'm really trying to just find the name in my brain of that one fighting game. A single developer had completely made it in Unreal Engine. It was sublime. I forgot the name of it, dude. Oh, it sucks so much. It was so goated. You guys, some of you probably know what I'm talking about.
It's a tab target ability bar combat system that is miles and miles behind World of Warcraft, but once more, is mostly fine. Abilities are mediocre, rotations barely exist, and it's governed by spamming your...
That's exactly our tax money in work here. Thank you for taking everything from me, Steven. I love you.
Auto attack keybind.
Well, not for me, but my camaraderie.
So combat doesn't stand out either. You have a dozen other MMOs that do it better right off the bat.
What was that animation? Jesus, man, what was that horse riding animation?
You have a dozen other MMOs that do it better right off the bat. What about its leveling experience then? To no one's surprise, it's exactly what you'd expect. You walk up to a character,
endless grind,
get told to do a menial task somewhere within the general vicinity, and you go there and do that menial task. Kill a bunch of enemies, pick up a thing, talk to a guy. It's certainly not Guild Wars 2 opening up a zone in front of you and telling you, go, explore,
Guild Wars 2 mentioned.
And it's nothing like RuneScape sending you on a unique adventure full of challenging encounters, puzzles, and genuine storytelling. It's just generic MMO questing that's spiced up by an event system that many other MMOs also have. FF14, for example.
Revolutionary.
Ashes arguably does something clever here by tying the events together narratively, but other than that, nothing.
How is that clever? That is to be expected. What? Dude, you would never played Guild Wars 2 or something? This is insane. Actually nuts. I feel like this guy, by the way, this is like a great video. I'm not mad at him or anything, but I feel like this guy does give Ashes a lot of benefit of the doubt, and I don't think you should do that. I think you should go raw, unhinged, full throttle at them, because I'd like to see that.
Maybe it gets better with professions. By this point, you're already like an hour in, but bear with me. The profession system is surprisingly deeper than one would expect, but once more is exactly the kind of thing you'd see with New World, rest in peace. It's like New World RIP, but with worse animations, sound design,
why does
and these
he
obnoxious fucking wait times while crafting. And I'm not sure if I need to continue from there. By this point, most people who weren't already going in knowing what to expect might have fallen off. And much like with most early access games, may never come back. First impressions are everything. This is not made better by the price tag. It's easy to dismiss criticism, especially when it's as harsh as mine, by motioning to it being early.
Damn, he called this a harsh criticism? Man, you really need to watch my videos.
Access, alpha,
that's
and
crazy.
Else. And yes, it is, and I hope the game improves. But also, if it's ready enough to be sold, it's more than ready to be criticized, especially on a platform like Steam for $50. A game that, at best, feels like a worse version of other MMOs that are playable for cheaper. When you're asking for this kind of money for an unfinished, kind of ugly, kind of cheap-looking MMO, you will be skewered. That's why the reception is mixed, to say the least. And I don't blame people for being mixed or heavily critical. When you spend $50 on a game, you are more than able to criticize that game if it doesn't deliver any.
Thank you, man. This is such a great point that everyone has been nagging me about. I mean, guys, you need to understand, when they ask you for an insane amount of money, you deserve to have a certain opinion. When it was released on Steam, it's a launched game. You need to treat it as a launched game, okay? Not fully launched, but still. Some sort of a baseline needs to be inside of the game. We need to have certain standards, okay? The game needs to meet certain criteria. Now, that criteria can shift here and there, but I think that Ashes is not even close to the bare minimum. It's that bad.
Anything particularly engaging or unique. This
By the
is
way,
made
I'm
more
sorry for all the
frustrating when
noise. There's
Ashes
a
of
giant
Creation is
storm,
not
dude.
only supposedly funded, so it doesn't even need this profit
Steven is mad, man. He's just calling Zeus and telling me to like just light bolt me. It's crazy. I don't know, man.
right now, but charging this kind of sum will
What's
only
going on there?
spoil its reputation. And as we know,
Jesus.
MMOs are long-term.
Crazy.
They survive and thrive off of reputation and expectation. Your MMO will
Absolutely.
not succeed if you only...
Absolutely, that's so facts. And you can see that because everyone was begging Blizzard to make vanilla World of Warcraft playable again, and Blizzard vehemently refused to do so for over a decade. And when they finally caved in, they realized that the potential was so huge, they kept on releasing Classic over and over and over again because they realized how wrong they were. Everyone played this game. It wasn't nostalgia. So player reputation is incredibly important for player retention. That is true.
Short-term profits in mind, even if that approach is
And
done
everyone
in good
still play
faith.
Classic.
I have yet to see a single good
Not Pandaria,
argument
though. Screw
for
the
this
pandas.
game's early access. As someone who had no expectations for this game, nor did I heavily follow its development up until this point, I am wholly dissatisfied with it right now. Not because it's unfinished, but because what isn't good. Doing something well enough is not enough for an MMO today. People are too tribal, too committed, too invested in their favorite game to ditch it for well enough. And now it feels like Ashes of Creation kind of ruined its only chance at putting a good foot forward, especially when we consider the tumultuous past of this genre's funding ventures and early access release. We are contextualizing this entire event through the understanding that most MMO fans are inherently skeptical. With that skepticality in mind, I don't know if that's a word, the community expects disappointment.
I got it.
And I'm sorry to say, their standards are low. So when they aren't met, it's not that the game has failed, it hasn't even succeeded enough to fail. Harsh words aside, I say
that was such a great dish out. Holy shit. So good, man. MMO player standards are so low and Ashes even failed to meet this one. That's so good.
All of this from a place of genuine desire to see more successful MMOs. My goal here is not to tear down a game, but to hopefully explain why it might not release successfully. And even then, I genuinely hope I'm wrong. I love this genre, it's my favorite, and the last thing I want is for yet another game to die before even living. I can't help but feel as though this decision by Ashes is accepting impending defeat. Nothing I saw from the dozens of hours of streams I've watched or game I've played sold me on a future. Not because I dislike PvP or think the ideas are bad, but because most of these ideas haven't manifested as anything. The nodes system, for example, is the most compelling element of Ashes, but one that relies on existing players and longer commitments. This is like the most unearly access feature imaginable, and it's the selling point of the game. It's a feature that depends on context that isn't possible to acquire quickly. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that down the line, with future updates and half a decade more of development time, I guess, Ashes rises from the ashes and becomes something a bit more than what it has sold now. The early access space is rough for a reason. First impressions are crucial, and that's why most players give you 5 minutes to sell them on a promise. What about your project is worth playing? Because in today's market, with thousands of games on offer and a large portion of those games being totally free, you simply can't skirt by on mediocrity, even if the game itself is mediocre. I mean, look at Palworld, no offense. Its one hook was being a survival craft.
Wait, what? Palworld is mediocre? Brother, it had the most explosive launch I've ever seen in my life. I don't know why I said explosive like an idiot, but it had 2 millions at the same time, right? Like, on concurrent players? It was insane. It pulled off numbers I thought I'd never see on Steam. It was crazy.
Pokemon game, and that was good enough. All it needed was that immediate hook. Until then, for as hopeful as
the game was good,
I can't help but envision a future where Ashes slides into the same slots and annals of history as every other Kickstarter blunder. I must reiterate again, this is not something that I am invested in. I truly do hope for its success, regardless of how that would manifest. But to those who are, What is Ashes of Creation's hook? What is your
Taking more money from your goddamn wallet. That's it. What this seemed to be the end of the video, so I'm just gonna call it here. Great video. I enjoyed this one a lot. I'm glad I actually watched this. I'm gonna leave a link in the description. You guys make sure you enter it and give this man a like. It was a phenomenal video. I'm actually so refreshed because I finally found someone who is willing to criticize this game. Not as much as I do, but still, to a very good point. Maybe I'm being a little too harsh because it just kind of makes me mad to see how people are deluding themselves with this game. But this guy was actually very critical and in a good way. So I'm finally glad that I found this guy. It's amazing. Truly an incredible video. But yeah, I pretty much said everything that I had to say. I really just can't wait for Ashes to continue and putting out more patches because that means that I get to clown on people even harder. But that being said, man, yeah, it's just a damn shame that so many people have fallen for this trap. It just feels bad. You can clearly tell that this game is going nowhere. I have absolutely no idea how they were 10 years in development, and this is all they have to offer, considering the fact that they have over, what, 300 people that currently working on this game. And I know it wasn't the case when they started. I know. But still, 10 years, man. Like, 10 years should have been way more than enough to produce something that is better than that.